Hey everybody, it's Monday, the Monday before Halloween. And we took Phantom's advice, as you can see, and reviewed Blair Witch 2, actually, Book of Shadows, semicolon, or no, just colon, Blair Witch 2. Which, there's no Book of Shadows in it, which we'll get into why that is later on. But here's the thing.
Book of Shadows appears.
There's no Book of Shadows in this movie. Yeah. So CB says, the Blair Witch Project was shit, so I'm guessing this one is even worse. I actually really like the Blair Witch Project, but I will say that even if you didn't like the Blair Witch Project, you might like this one because this one's a lot different.
Yeah, I didn't like Blair Witch. I thought it was kind of dry. But this part 2, it's better. It's more like a normal movie in a way.
It's interesting. It's kind of cool because the guy that made it, the guy that directed it, rather, Joe Berlinger or Berlinger, I'm not really sure. He was mostly known for like true crime documentaries, right? Like he made that one that was actually quite well known called Paradise Lost about the Robin Hood Hills murders, I think is what they were called. And he didn't really want to do a found footage, but he thought it would be interesting to make something that was kind of like a meta statement on the first movie, you know?
Even though you could watch this as a standalone. You don't have to see the first movie.
You could. It's better because you do have to kind of know some of the lore. You know what I mean?
But they go over some of the lore.
But they do kind of go over some of the lore anyway, so it's like, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you don't have to have seen it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think it was... Because here's the thing. I feel like this is not... It's not a great movie, but I think it was really, really unfairly maligned, like, when it came out. This came out only, like, a year after the Blair Witch Project, because Blair Witch Project came out in 1999. Obviously, it was a huge... Not just a financial success, but a huge, like, cultural phenomenon, right? And so they wanted to rush a sequel into production really quick. And the original production company is like, we don't want to do that. We want, like, kind of the hype to die down, and then we want to give it some time so we can, like, make something good. Do you know what I mean? But Artisan Entertainment was like, no, we need to do something, like, right now. Like, strike while the iron is hot. So they had, like, all these different scripts they were thinking about and everything. But they got this documentary filmmaker in there. And like I said, he was kind of, like, coming at it from... He was approaching it as the first film. He's like, I kind of felt it was dishonest because they were acting like it was something that really happened. And it's like these people really went missing and really got killed and all this other kind of stuff. And he's like, that's kind of shitty. So he's like, so I kind of wanted to make something commenting on just the kind of the danger of conflating reality with fantasy, and also kind of the way that media can be manipulated or can lie to you. You know, the way it's like easy to maybe manipulate people using video because video never lies. They even say that like in this movie, like pretty much. So I thought it was like an interesting angle to take it. I saw this movie. I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw it whenever it came out on DVD. So maybe like a year or two later, I think I rented it. And I remember really liking it. I was like, well, that was pretty good. Like, I wasn't really expecting much of anything because it's a sequel, you know? But I was like, wow, that's actually much better. And they took it in a different direction, which I didn't expect, and I liked that. But then I kind of found out afterward that this was almost universally shat upon, this movie. I think at the time that it came out, only like 14% of the reviews were positive. Like, pretty much everyone just thought...
They probably wanted just another part 1.
Yeah, I kind of... Well, the weird thing is, it seemed like most of the criticism was it was just, like, kind of cookie cutter, or it used stuff from other movies, or it wasn't a surprise, or anything like that. And then I think some people wanted more of the same. Like, they wanted another found footage movie that was, like, a continuation of the first story, whereas this one is kind of, like I said, a meta commentary about the first movie, because in the universe of this movie, the first movie is fictional, right? So it's not coming at it from a point of view, whereas the Blair Witch Project was pretending this really happened. The second movie is not doing that. It's not continuing that trope that this is something that really happened and we're making a documentary about it. It's very specifically about the first movie being fictional and some people not being able to deal with that, or some people being confused over whether the shit really happened or not.
Okay, so what that's going to do in the mind of the fans of the first film is that the second film is shitting on the first film and destroying its legacy.
Yeah,
That's
and maybe some. I kind of feel like maybe that was part of the. I don't know. It seemed to me like I read kind of a sampling of some of the reviews like from the time, and it did seem the criticisms were kind of all over the place. Most of the criticisms were that they just thought it was not all that exciting. Like it's not super violent. It's not that that it just wasn't like anything special. The thing about it though,
probably would have been safer had they just made another found footage.
Yeah, and
that it was something kind of adjacent to or related to the fucking to the first one. Like you got the Blair Witch, right? But what next to it you might have, or I don't know. There might be more to the might be more to the witch than previously spoken of. You could do anything like that. I think that would have been a safer bet for them to do that.
And I kind of feel like that's why I'm glad that this director didn't do that, because it would have been very easy just to make another one. That was like the first one. Right. Like, it'd be cheap to make. If it was found footage, you could just make another one, like about another group of kids that went into the woods looking for the first
and
group of kids.
See, what you do is then you have to fucking bolster the reputation of the first one by saying, yeah, that shit happened. In this universe, that shit happened. In the first one, it's a fact. Now, here's some more stuff. So the whole series could be found footage and supposed to be a real occurrence. That's probably the way they should have gone. Probably should have done it that way.
Although I will say, no, like I said, I'm glad they didn't go that way, because I think even though this movie, I think this movie nowadays has a better reputation than it did back when it came out, because like for a long time, because this came out in 2000, like I said, I don't even know if it was a year after Blair Witch came out, but it was just the next year. It was like immediate. And I feel like pretty much everybody just shit on it. It made money, not a lot, not nearly as much as the first Blair Witch, which made like all the money.
It wasn't a continuation though.
But yeah, so
what the audience wanted.
Right.
I agree with you from an artistic standpoint. Yeah, taking a fresh look at it, that's artistically probably the thing to do. But that doesn't make money. What makes money in a theater is pretty much giving the audience what they want. That's a much safer bet. So I just would have done another one, like the first one.
But here's what kind of interests me, is that this movie has kind of an interesting backstory. Because like I said, the guy that made it, he co-wrote the script. Because like I said, Artisan Entertainment, I think they commissioned like 4 different writers to write scripts. And they just said, we're going to pick the best one, or we're going to pick shit we like from each one and combine them. So they picked one they liked, and then the guy that directed it also kind of threw in his ideas. And they kind of came up with something together. I think one of the original scripts was going to have Heather from the original movie like coming back and her getting blamed for killing the other 2 guys and all this other kind of stuff. So it was going to be kind of similar to how this story went, but with an original character. This one has all new characters. But like I said, this one is coming at it from the point of view that the Blair Witch Project was a fictional movie. Like that it's not a real myth, or it's not a real movie. It wasn't a real documentary. So what happened with this was that Joe Berlinger made the movie, and he, the production company or whoever, like the studio executives, looked at it and said, we don't like it. They told him they said basically, okay, we have to call it Book of Shadows for some fucking reason. I don't have any idea why they called it that. There's no book, there's no nothing, anything like that. So I don't know why but that was the studio thing. We have to call it Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. And he's just, what the fuck ever. Okay. They also said there's not enough violence in it. So all the intercut scenes of them like stabbing the other tour group, like all the bloody shit, that wasn't in there originally. None of that gore was in there. None of that was in there. But the studio said, yeah, we have to put all that in there. So they had to film that later, like in the director's backyard or some shit, and put that in. All the stuff about the main guy, Jeff, and the scenes of him in the mental hospital, that was also filmed later, because the executives were like, well, there's not really a villain or a bad guy, so we want to kind of make it imply that he's kind of the bad guy, so you have to shoot all these scenes of him in a mental hospital like he went crazy or something like that. So they had to add all of that. The opening song over the credits was supposed to be Witchcraft by Frank Sinatra.
Okay, yeah.
But the studio said, no, it has to be Marilyn Manson.
So I thought that was Marilyn Manson.
It is. It's Disposable Teens.
Okay, yeah. Is that made for this movie, or is it just...
No, that was just one of his songs. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I was watching earlier Good Bad Flicks on YouTube. He did a breakdown of this where he was arguing that this is actually like a much better movie, like a much smarter movie than people thought. And he showed the opening sequence with the Frank Sinatra song, and wow, it makes a big difference, like tonally. Because when it comes, like when the opening credits came on, and, you know, Marilyn Manson is on there, I'm just like, ooh, edgelordy.
Yeah, 90s is shit.
Ugh. And I'm just like, and you just know, like, it just sets you up for that kind of movie. And it's not really even that kind of, there is like some...
They tried to make it that
painfully, kind of it's not as painfully 90s as some of the stuff, and I know it came out in 2000, but that was still kind of the 90s holdover. But the fact that they insisted on that song at the beginning kind of makes it seem like that. I think it would have been much, much better if they would have used the Sinatra song.
I don't know the song, so...
I mean, you'd know it if you heard it. It's pretty famous.
I liked the one that was in it, though. Like, making it that kind of movie is probably the way I would have gone in those days. Try to get... you can see what kind of viewership they're trying to get. It's one of the girls in here is all gothed out. She's actually a pretty well-written character. She does a good job, the actress would. And what I liked about it is that she looks authentic. That's the way goth girls from late 90s, early 2000s looked. That's kind of how they acted, you know, the more rural ones. She's just portrayed as a normal person. She's not portrayed as, you know, some fucking, you know, freakazoid or anything. She's just a normal person, which I liked that. I
did too. And it's unusual. I think one of the things that I really liked about this movie back when I first saw it in 2001 or wherever I saw it was one of the reasons. Because honestly, all through the 80s and even into the 90s, whenever you had a goth character in the movie... Yeah, they were always portrayed as like kind of a weirdo, or
they were kind of the butt of certain jokes.
Yeah,
they were, you know, token goth person.
Yeah, and so it was a little bit kind of
Ooh, look at this, you know what I mean? It's that kind of or there's some kind of villain, or they're crazy or something. You know?
Yeah, like they'd go in like some, I don't know, they'd go to like a gravestone and you pick up a skull and lick it or some shit. It'd be like stupid shit like that. Yeah. So it's like, ooh, look what a weirdo they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I liked it in this one. She acted very much like
a goth girl.
Goth girls act, but she was just like a regular person.
Yeah.
And she wasn't set up like a villain. There's also like a Wiccan girl in this.
Yeah.
That's also a good character. I kind of like the characters in this, like the way they did them. Oh, so something else. Okay, so this is crazy. So the studio tells him, you have to put all these violent scenes in there of like people being stabbed and whatnot. He's like, okay, fine, whatever. But then, you know, the scene near the beginning where Tristan, like it's like her and her boyfriend, husband, whatever, they're working on a book about mythology and kind of mass hysteria. And so they're studying the Blair Witch phenomenon. And so they go on this tour, and she's pregnant and she doesn't want the baby, but he wants it. And during the tour, like during the trip, she has a miscarriage and they have to take her to the hospital. And there's a scene where they're rolling her on the gurney, like down the hall of the hospital. And there's obviously she's had a miscarriage. So there's like, she has pants, but there's like blood between her legs and stuff. And the studio wanted to take that out because it was too graphic. Mm-hmm. Even though they wanted all these like stabbing scenes and people's throats being cut and everything, it was like, oh, but a miscarriage, that's a little beyond the pale. We have to take that out. So they wanted to take that out, but they didn't take that out. They left that in. Another thing, too, and I wonder how the movie would play. As far as I know, there's never been a director's cut of this. But from everything that I read, the way that this movie was originally laid out was, if you've seen it, there's like intercut scenes of a police interrogation, like with each of the characters being questioned about, you know, the events like that happened, and they're just like, no, that's not what happened, and all this other kind of stuff. Now, originally, the movie was set up to be completely linear. It was kind of like, you know, they went on the tour, they went into the woods, everything happened A, B, C, D, E, and then all of the police interrogation stuff was all at the end. So it was just kind of like, so this whole time, there's this mystery about they go into the woods, they, you know, get drunk, they're smoking some weed, they all black out for like 3 hours and they don't know what happened. And then like the rest of the movie is kind of like this mystery where they're trying to figure out what the fuck they did because they don't remember anything. And then they start kind of like losing their minds. And then like, then at the very end, when they do the police interrogation, that's when you find out what actually happened. So it's like a much bigger revelation. So I do kind of feel like the studio insisting on him like parceling that out in little pieces, like throughout the course of the movie, maybe kind of just got rid of a lot of the suspense that way, because you already kind of know kind of what's going on, because it just keeps giving you all these hints through the thing instead of just letting it play out in real time, because that's how it was supposed to go. That's what I heard, is that all that police interrogation stuff, like the revelation of what had really happened when they blacked out, that you didn't find that out till the end. So I kind of feel like that maybe made a big difference. I think that would make a big difference in like people's enjoyment of the film, because I think some people found the film kind of disjointed or like a little bit incoherent, just because it was, and I'm not saying that it has to be like linear to be coherent, because a lot of movies aren't and you can follow them just fine, but this one I think would have benefited from a more linear narrative, because it would have been like a more standard descent into madness type of story, and then at the end there would be like this big reveal, this is what really happened. Or was it? Because I kind of feel like they left some ambiguity there too, which I actually like. So the story of this movie, if you've never seen it, and like I said, I think like a lot of people are saying, you know, how shit it was and everything like that, but like I said, I think this movie is actually like a lot better than people give it credit for. It has flaws for sure. Like I said, it's not a great movie, but I just think that it was, I think just people shit on it unfairly, you know?
Well, I didn't like the first one, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So so you don't really have any dog in the fight, I guess.
I thought the first one was shit. I thought it was kind of unwatchable. This one was a little bit more watchable, but not that much more interesting, really, you know. But it was okay. It was done okay. I thought it was kind of competent, the way it was done.
Yeah.
It was a movie of its time, you know. I mean, it really does take me back to the late 90s.
Yeah, for sure. It's not as, like I said, it's not as painfully 90s as an early 2000s as some, which is the 90s and 2000s, which I've said multiple times, is like probably my least favorite era for horror movies. I mean, there was a lot of good ones in there, but I kind of feel like a lot of the ones that got popular and stuff, there was just something about the vibe of that time that I wasn't really into, like as far as the movies go. Yeah. But this one, other than the Marilyn Manson song and like a couple of the other things that they added later, like against the director's wishes, this wasn't as painfully 90s, early 2000s as some other movies from this era, because it was trying to be something, it was trying to be more of like a psychological thriller rather than a straight horror movie. I mean, the fact that he wasn't going to put all this gore in there and the studio made him add that to make it more like a standard horror movie, that wasn't really his intention. His whole intention was to, you know, because the story is these people are big fans of the Blair Witch movie, which, as I said, is fictional in the universe of this movie. And so they go back to Burkittsville, and it's funny because there's even little clips at the beginning of like movie reviews about the Blair Witch Project, and there's news stuff about all these crazy people coming to Burkittsville, Maryland, it was just a real town, by the way, and all the locals being pissed off about it. It's like, you know, all these weirdos are here because they're into this movie and causing all this trouble and everything like that. So it does have that little bit of like pseudo documentary thing at the beginning, but like I said, it's not found footage. It does have a lot to do with video and how it can be manipulated or how you can remember things wrong or something like that, but it's not really like a found footage. It's just like a regular movie, but it does have like some quasi documentary stuff at the beginning. So they all go out to the woods because the main guy Jeff, is like, he was in a mental hospital, so he's got some issues, but he's like the world's biggest Blair Witch fan apparently, and he runs a web store where he sells merch like based around it, and because he lives in Burkittsville, and he's starting a Blair Witch tour group. So this is like his inaugural one. So he has the goth girl whose name is Kim, the Wiccan girl whose name is Erica, and then this couple who are Steven and Tristan, and they're like I said, they're like anthropologists or something, and they're like working on a book about mass hysteria and mythology and how the intersection of those two things. So they all go on this tour. Now what happens is they camp out at the site of in the first movie, you know, there was that killer like Rustin Parr that killed all those children, and he said the Blair Witch told him to do it. So the ruins of his house, and they all camp out there, and they're having this big party, and they drink a lot and smoke a lot of weed and shit like that, and then they black out, and they wake up, and all of their equipment, all of the anthropologists like paperwork and everything like that, like everything is just destroyed and shredded, and they don't know what happened. Like none of them remember anything. So then the goth girl, who is kind of psychic, she knows that the tapes from all the cameras, even though the cameras have been destroyed, that all of the tapes are like under the rock where the initial tapes from the original movie Blair Witch Project were found. So they look, and they're in there. So for the rest of the movie, they go back to Jeff's house, which is actually this old mill, like outside of Baltimore is where they shot that. And he's just like squatting there. And so they're trying to figure out what happened during that missing time. And while that's happening, each of them starts kind of like losing their marbles, like in different ways. Like they start like hallucinating or like seeing things and they're not sure if it's real. And like stuff starts turning up on the video. Like they see like Erica like dancing naked around this tree, and she's like, I didn't do that. I don't remember doing that. But so it's like all this kind of stuff. Like they see the stuff on video and don't remember it happening like that. So kind of the whole thing is, like I said, kind of making a statement about, you know, how video can be manipulated, how your memory can be manipulated, because these characters are doing things they don't remember, and they're saying, no, that wasn't how that happened, like in real life. But then when they see it on video, it's like completely different than they remembered, and they're doing things that they don't remember doing. So I like that it kind of went in that direction. Like I said, I think it would have been a lot better if it was structured the way the director originally wanted it to. Like, wanted it to be structured where it was just kind of this mystery, and it was this spiraling descent into madness where they're all like freaking out, like trying to be like, what the fuck happened? Like during that time we were all blacked out. And then at the end, after they all get arrested, you know, and they're being interrogated, and they're showing them the videos of what they did. And they're just like, that's not me, or I didn't do that, or anything like that. I think that would have been a lot more impactful maybe. But the way they did it, they kind of cut it up into little segments and kind of spaced it out like throughout the narrative, which kind of, like I said, it kind of dilutes the suspense a little bit. But honestly, like overall, I don't really understand, and even back in the day when I saw this, I don't really understand the hatred that people had for this movie. Like I said, I think it's not the same now because I guess, you know, the context is different and people are seeing it now without any preconceptions maybe. But even back then, I didn't really understand why people hated it so much. Like I said, it's not fantastic.
Well, if it undoes the first movie, then yeah, they're gonna hate that. And that's the first.
I guess
rule,
you could argue
you don't undo
that it undoes it.
Yeah, the stories that's
because the whole point of the first one was it was supposed to be real.
Yeah.
But the thing about it though is that after it came out, like everybody and their mama like found out that it wasn't real. So it's like, so I kind of feel like so a movie that's like disabusing people of the idea that the Blair Witch was real, it's like, well, nobody thinks it's real anymore anyway. But I guess like in universe, maybe you kind of would rather a sequel like played upon the lore as if it was real, rather than, like I said, going meta with it, which I don't usually like. I don't usually like meta takes. Not usually. Well, I don't know. I can't really say that because I do like when that's been done sometimes. But I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting the way he did it in this context, you know? just because he was exploring, people that actually thought the Blair Witch Project was real and how they were marketing it like it was real.
He didn't need this movie didn't have to be a Blair Witch movie. This could have been a standalone, and they could have replaced the Blair Witch concept with something else and done the same thing with it, probably. So I think that's probably why it wasn't that popular. And then if it undoes the first movie, like it says, well, the first movie didn't happen. So don't worry about watching that one. Just watch this one, is how they're going to take it. Like, oh, okay, so that was for nothing.
Yeah.
So I sat through that movie for nothing, right? So that'll shut your audience down. That's what happened to all the new Star Wars movies. All the new Star Wars movies are unpopular with Star Wars fans because they undo all the fucking original trilogy storylines, Like Rey, the good guy, that was Palpatine's daughter. So the bad guys kind of won in a certain way. His daughter's out there using the Force and fucking doing all this cool shit. She's the only Force user left. And that was Palpatine's daughter. And he was the bad guy. So people didn't like that.
Oh, did somebody ask who my necklace was? Yeah, it's H.P. Lovecraft. Thank you, somebody. It's like Phantom answered that. Yeah. Xana said, Jenny isn't a fan of the I Know What You Did Last Summer series, clearly. Yeah, I wasn't really... I mean, they're okay. But I barely remember. I think I saw the first one for sure. Maybe the second one. There was more than that, wasn't there? I think there was more than two. But I think I only saw the first two. And like I said, they were fine. It didn't really stick with me. Burley said Urban Legend was okay. Yeah, I remember that one being all right. I liked, there were a couple from like the early 2000s, like, that were okay. Like Valentine, I think we reviewed that one. Like, it was just a slasher. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, Xanada said the only 90s horror movie he remembers is Scream. What about Candyman from 1992? Or Silence of the Lambs? Which I would argue is a horror movie. I know people say it's a thriller, but whatever.
Xanada is saying that, what did he say? He's talking about that there was a website to the original Blair Witch. And people thought it was actually real. Yeah, I mentioned that when we reviewed the Blair Witch.
I mean, the marketing behind the first Blair Witch was amazing. Yeah. And that was like the first time that had been done, like kind of using the internet. Like they set up a website, they made a documentary. They did the same thing with this one, even though this one, obviously the first one's kind of more like an ARG, so you can set it up like it was a real thing that happened. Yeah.
I remember I was living in Pass Christiana, Mississippi in the early internet days. And was hanging out with my first wife, who she was gothed out, and fucking all her friends were little goth girls, Mississippi goth girls. So I was saying the way rural goth girls are, Somebody in there think Stick says, were these people rural? Yeah, most likely. Most people, I don't know what country you're in, but most people from the United States are actually from towns. They're not from big cities. There's just a shit ton of fucking towns and cities everywhere. And there's goths out there, especially in the early internet days, because it was easy to get your hands on it. But they had, how I heard of the movie was I had my wife's friends asking me if I knew anything about the Blair Witch. And I was like, what? And then she was telling me, her name was Melissa, that there was a website on there about this, like a ghost type case. But there's a movie associated with it. And I remember going on there and looking. It was, in the early internet days. And that website was fucking pretty fascinating. I thought that was a really cool idea. It did kind of blur the boundaries between, reality and fakeness.
Yeah, like an ARG, like an ARG, like an alternate reality.
You're like, is this true? And this was all happening in a day where the Discovery Channel was putting out fucking mockumentaries about mermaids and shit. That mermaids were real. It was just part of the zeitgeist of the time. Of just like this marketing deception. But I thought it was fucking great. I thought that maybe the movie was based on a real paranormal case. And you know what I mean? Like the way the Amityville Horror was. But no, it's not based on anything. It's totally made up.
Yeah, I mean the lore is completely made up and everything like that. But
that marketing was fucking great, and it was
genius.
Yeah, and the girls, the people that really picked up on that marketing campaign back in those days were goth girls. They were trading the links to that thing over and over and over, and that and ARGs too, later on. But yeah.
I will note though, like on the point that maybe some people didn't like Blair Witch 2 because it negated or shit on the legacy of the first one. I will note though that Blair Witch 2 did leave the outcome ambiguous. That was kind of the whole point of the movie, was that you never do find, spoiler alert, you never do find out in the movie if these people are just crazy and like talked themselves into some hysteria because they believed in this thing that wasn't real, or if the Blair Witch was real and was actually like possessing them, like possessing one of them or possessing all of them, because that's kind of the way they showed it, as though the witch was possessing.
Yeah, I thought they were getting
the one, and they were kind of getting like that, but they left it open just from some of the videos that they showed where she didn't seem possessed, even though like you kind of saw her acting sort of possessed. So they kind of left it open, which I kind of liked, because so they kind of had it both ways, because it could very well be that the witch was real and was possessing these people, or it could have been that all of these people were so obsessed with this myth that they made it real in their own minds, because that was kind of like a conversation that the two anthropologists were having with each other, where the guy was very rational, quote unquote, and was just kind of like, myth is myth and reality is reality and never the twain shall meet, or whatever, whereas his wife is just kind of like, myth makes reality, like if you believe something hard enough, perception makes reality. So that was kind of the dichotomy, I guess, that the movie was exploring, and they don't answer the question, like they just leave it. You don't really know what happened. Like, yeah, you see the videos, you see the movie that they showed you, which is ostensibly the perception of the characters, like how they saw things unfold, and then you see the videos, which is completely different, and they're sitting there going, that's not how it happened. And you, as the viewer, are kind of left to figure it out. So you don't know exactly what happened, And I think that that's good that they kind of left it like that. And I think Phantom brought this up a little bit earlier, but this movie does have like a lot of little Easter eggs in it. Like a little, I think he mentioned the one in one of the interrogation scenes, like when the cop walks by the, the one-way glass or whatever, like his reflection actually kind of looks like a monster, like rather than a person. And then there's kind of like subtle, there's like words in the background and stuff like that. You have to watch it a bunch of times to see it, but I watched a video that kind of pointed them all out, like all, because I think when it came out, I'm not sure about on the website, but I think when it came out on DVD, like it had like a little special featurette thing that like showed you where all these Easter eggs were, and like you got like a secret message and all this other kind of stuff. So it had like a lot of those kind of ARG components, like the first one did, even though it was doing a completely different, not a completely different, but like a slightly different take on it, I guess. But like I said, I kind of feel like, I don't know if this movie has been redeemed to the point of, say, like Halloween 3 has been, which was another movie that was famously shit on when it came out, and now everybody's like, what the fuck were we thinking? That movie's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's Michael Myers wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So you want to hear that.
So, yeah. So I kind of feel like maybe time will be kind to this movie, too. I kind of feel like it's kind of got more of a cult following now than it used to be, because like I said, when it first came out, it was pretty much everybody was just kind of like, nope. Even though it did make money. Like, it opened second at the box office and it made money, like I said, but it didn't make that much, and it was still kind of considered a failure. But like I said, I don't think it's terrific. I just kind of think that it's a good movie, and it's got like some interesting shit to say. I'd be interested to see a director's cut the way he wanted it, because I bet that would be a lot better because I'm kind of imagining what that would be like. And I think just from a storytelling standpoint, from a tonal standpoint, I think that would make a huge difference, and I think it would be a lot better. Even just changing that song out, I think would make a lot of difference.
They wanted that market.
Yeah, which, like I said,
that's changed the
like
tone.
I said, that's kind of the issue that I had with a lot of these '90s and early 2000s movies. Is that it's just that just edgelordy. I just didn't like that. I didn't like that whole thing.
It sold pretty well, though.
It did. I know, but I didn't love it.
People brought it up. It was, Hot Topic style goth. Fucking
yeah,
mainstream, real mainstream.
It
Marilyn
was,
Manson, yeah. Oh, cutting edge. You never heard of 9 Inch Nails? Oh man, yeah. Just funny,
Holy crap.
Just the real pedestrian stuff, but I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. I think it was better than the first one. I didn't really like the first one. Just wasn't my kind of movie. I don't like found footage.
I generally don't, but there's a lot of exceptions to that. It can be done well. I don't shit on it as a subgenre but if I'm gonna like a found footage, I tend to like found footage that's more like a mockumentary. I do like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like something like The Bay or Lake Mungo or something like that, where it's set up more like a documentary.
Big Man Japan.
Yeah, that's one a lot of people don't bring up, which, that's like a mockumentary.
Yeah.
Big Man Japan's fucking great if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's streaming now, but...
Yeah.
Because sometimes it seems like it's hard to get hold of.
Yeah.
But then I've seen it turn up on Tubi every now and then.
Big Man Japan's about this dude who can get big when he needs to.
Yeah.
That
was the line we always kind of repeat.
Yeah, when he needs to.
He gets big when he needs to.
Yeah. He gets big enough to fight monsters.
And the monsters in this are like...
They're funny, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But awesomely ridiculous. I was just like, oh my god, what drugs were they on?
You have to know a lot about kaiju.
Yeah.
It's about kaiju.
Yeah, it's like a kaiju movie.
Yeah.
But like a parody?
Yeah.
Would I call it? I guess I would call it a parody.
An honored kaiju
but it's
too.
it's like a loving parody, and it's deadpan. It's real deadpan. It's not zany.
Yeah.
Which to me makes it much funnier. Like, cause I don't really like super over the top zany humor.
Yeah.
I think it's funnier when the situation in a movie is like super absurd, but everyone's just like super deadpan about it.
Yeah.
Like that is way funnier to me.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is like. Like it's super deadpan.
Yeah. Big Man Japan. Check it out.
But yeah, but I like I said, I have like some found footage, like, Wreck, that Spanish movie, that was great. And, I like a lot of found footage, but it's not usually my go-to subgenre. Like, if it's a movie that's like, oh, it's found footage, I'm like, maybe I'll get to that. You know what I mean? But, Rodham 10 said the world didn't need this much Marilyn Manson on their movie soundtrack. It really didn't. I think even when this movie came out, there was like some kind of big contest that you could win... like a trip to the opening of this, and then Marilyn Manson was also going to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sounds like right. Yeah.
So the studio were really pushing for this.
They wanted a younger audience.
I guess.
Of goth kids.
Of fake goth kids.
Fake mall.
Or mall goths, as we used to call them.
Mall goths, yeah.
Or spooky kids.
Yeah.
They used to call them spooky kids, too.
Yeah, mall goths.
But yeah, us older ones were just kind of like... posers.
We still go to the mall, and every now and then we'll see young mall goth.
Yeah, it's crazy. You still see them nowadays.
Still around, yeah. They're like just horrible outfits, badly done hair, and just like mixed match clothing.
They were kind of like that back then too.
They were kind of like that back then, but you're supposed to know better now.
Yeah, you should, like we have the internet now, y'all. It's like,
now.
please, like, look up a better aesthetic.
Yeah, and Shein sells just about everything for fucking dirt cheap to put together that look. But they're just mall goths, with trailer park background. A lot of them just can't get it right. But hey,
and they listen to shit music.
They listen to shitty music, yeah.
They don't even listen to anything good.
Yeah.
There's like nothing approaching. That's the funny thing about, like, so you'd go in Hot Topic, like, in later years. Yeah. I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? This, like, isn't even... Yeah. So there was, like, at some point, there was, like, a disconnect between people who looked like... It used to be if you looked like a goth, you listened to, like, goth or goth-adjacent kind of music. Like, that, maybe not that exclusively, but you knew... So if you saw somebody else like that, you'd be like, oh, you probably like this, that, and the other thing. Nowadays, you can't tell. Because you see somebody that looks like that, and they could listen to some totally fucking different shit that you don't even...
Girl looks goffed out as hell, and you look, and her whole fucking shit is just like new rap music.
Yeah, it's weird.
You see, you don't listen to goth music, they wouldn't even know what that was.
Yeah, there's like a disconnect.
Huh? Yeah.
Because it used to be the only people that looked like that
listen to certain kinds of music.
were people in that subculture that listen to that kind of music or into that kind of stuff. And there's no... Now the goth look is like completely separate.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Especially like on TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's a costume now. A girl can throw that on and make money as a goth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's probably not from the scene.
Yes, and it's kind of a bummer. Like I said, you can't really tell. The only way you can tell is like if you're in a club and see somebody.
Some of them I can tell by the tattoos.
That too. Like there's some things that give it away, but
yeah, like you'll see one and the girl's got a damn Bauhaus tattoo, the face, or fucking bats, lots of bats,
or
and
then
you'll
an annoy about or something like that.
Then
you're like, oh, okay, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, what was the one that I saw? I saw one recently. Oh, somebody had the Sisters of Mercy logo of the shit. It was the head.
The Some Girls Wander by Mistake.
Yeah, the head inside the fucking star.
Yeah.
That one.
So, okay.
Yeah, and I've also seen ones of First and Last and Always. There was a symbol associated with that. I forgot which one it was.
Yeah, I kind of feel... I mean, the Sisters of Mercy aren't that obscure.
Right.
But, I mean, the fact that...
If somebody tattoos that on them, though. If some chick tattoos that on them.
Yeah, then probably they're into some okay shit, I would guess. Like I said, I would trust more maybe Bauhaus or Einsters and a Neubauten or Skinny Puppy or something like that. But because I feel like Sisters of Mercy are just on the cusp of being where it's just kind of like there's goth stuff that's like real mainstream, like The Cure, which is still good, but super overplayed and like even like a bunch of normies are into it. And I kind of feel like Sisters of Mercy is right on that.
Yeah.
On that precipice.
Well, the first albums were goth.
Yeah.
And then
not so much the first like the EPs and stuff, but I'm talking Floodland.
Floodland came out and that's Vision not quite goth anymore. Yeah, and Vision thing is now metal. It's LA metal.
It's kind of glam metal.
Yeah.
It's still okay. Like I like some of the songs on it, but I don't like it as much as their old shit. Their old shit was like full on goth rock.
Yeah.
Which I like a lot better. But yeah. So we got talking about that. But like I said, there's a goth girl in this. And I think that was one of the things, like I said, that excited me about this movie, because you didn't see a lot of goth characters in movies that were just regular ass people. I think that was another thing that I liked about the movies like Gypsy 83 and even Beetlejuice to an extent. I think Beetlejuice was maybe the first movie that I had seen that had a goth character in it that she was a little bit exaggerated, but not much. And she was just like a good person. She wasn't, she wasn't played for laughs, or she wasn't, not really. And she was just kind of played as like a regular character. And I think that was kind of the first time I remember seeing that and thinking that was like really cool. So I did really appreciate, and I appreciated too, if you didn't notice, that the goth character and the Wiccan character in here, like neither of them are the bad guy. If indeed the witch did possess somebody, which like I said, they leave ambiguous. The witch is actually like the bad guy actually ends up being the normal girl. You know what I mean? So I think he was kind of trying to make a statement like about these outsiders. They're not like the people you gotta watch. You know what I mean? Maybe that was accidental, but I don't think so. I think he was actually kind of saying that. All right. So are you ready to wrap it up this evening? Okay. So hopefully you guys can join us for Wednesday night show, because Wednesday night is Halloween Eve.
Yeah.
And we're going to do like a little Halloween special. We're going to talk all about Halloween urban legends. Hopefully if my costume comes out okay. I don't know if I should do a trial run. I think it'll be all right. It's not super complicated. I'm not going to tell you what it is, though, just in case I fuck it up. I have to just like dress up as me. But yeah, so thanks everybody for dropping by this evening. Thank you, Phantom, for this recommendation, because I was actually interested to rewatch this because I hadn't seen it in such a long time. So yeah, so hopefully you guys can join us again on Wednesday for our Halloween special. That should be a lot of fun. So yeah, have a good rest of your night, you guys, and we'll see you again on Wednesday.